What's up? Hey guys. So we're doing our first podcast video version today, and we've got a really awesome guest, Ashley Pugh. Say hey, Ashley. Make sure everybody's Zoom's working here.
Hey guys.
Then we have Maria, who is facilitating this. Maria, we good? Everything good
Yeah,
on
we're
your end?
good.
Awesome. Hey, so we have a weekly leadership meeting, Ashley and I. Ashley is a director of operations for Pruitt Insurance Group, our insurance agency, and she has developed over the years into this role. And so today we're actually going to record and go through one of our leadership meetings that we do on a weekly basis. Lee, who is our director of operations for Pruitt Pest Control, is actually just had a last minute thing come up, so he's not going to be able to join us today. But I think it's kind of interesting having a perspective of an established company and a startup company. So the stuff we're going to talk about today will be a sort of a combination of some of those. But Ashley, you're in a different season with running our insurance company than where we are with the startup. So I'm sure you're going to have a different perspective. But Ashley, give us a little introduction about who you are and when you started with us and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. So I'm Ashley Pugh, and I started with Pruitt Insurance Group almost 6 years ago. Started as just a licensed associate. So that is just entry sales and a lot of cold calling and a lot of just outbound dialing. And so I took this job wanting to get back to Auburn, and I wanted to work for one of the top agencies. And that's what I did when I found Rusty. And then quickly learned that I wanted to develop in with this company and not just be in that entry level sales. And so from there, I just really wanted Rusty to pour into me, and we kind of came up with a plan about a year into it with, hey, how can I grow and how can I make this happen as fast as I wanted it to. And so he started pouring into me, weekly, daily on how to perfect my sales and how to, coach people and bring on new teammates. And so it just developed from there. And I just worked my tail off to get to where I wanted to be. And then, fast forward a few years, I was still selling, having to hit sales goals and minimums but hiring and training and pulling calls and coaching and a lot of accountability, all together. So my days were, it wasn't your 8 to 5. It was more, when did it stop? It didn't. But I loved what I was doing. And so, I'm just really passionate about it. And then about a year ago, I moved into this director role to where I don't sell anymore, but I kind of learned, with Rusty coaching me and teaching me how to develop other people into not little mini me's and basically just be really good at sales and perfect that process. And I think that's what we've done the last year or so, year and a half, is just grow a really awesome sales team and pour into our customer service team. And that's where we are now. So we're in a really good place, but it was not always easy. It's not easy now, but it definitely is not the same as it was a few years ago.
That's right. So it's a different type of challenging, right? We still have unique challenges today compared to 5 years ago. I mean, goodness, we're going through COVID right now and people being out and things happening and you're working from home today. So I'm at home quarantining, you're at home, with a 1-year-old, and Maria's holding down the fort at the office. And so who would have thought a few years ago we'd be Zooming right now, which, by the way, and hosting this podcast, which is kind of crazy. So, you mentioned a couple of things, and we could do a whole podcast on developing a team and leadership development and how to hire. Do you hire turnkey people with experience, or do you develop people? And, I think I've made mistakes in the past with our insurance company with trying to hire a turnkey person as opposed to developing them. And Ashley, you were really one of the first ones to come on board that bought into my vision and went through a development path, and we were able to sort of develop you into a leader within the organization. And it didn't happen overnight, did it?
No, it did not.
I mean, this is someone who was working hard, but knew that to take it to the next level had to be we had to add on responsibilities, right? So it was selling, but not just be a good salesman, but how to recruit, how to develop a team of your own, and which means you had to work on leadership skills, time management skills,
Yeah.
marketing skills, interviewing skills, things that definitely doesn't happen overnight. And I'll brag on you for a second. You have led a team of several producers under you who've developed and gone on to do really good things. When Ashley was in sales, she was one of the top 50 sales producers for Allstate, probably out of 20,000 countrywide. So, pretty darn big accomplishment. So for me, it was really nerve-wracking to pull you out of sales and put you into a management position, which, if you remember, we set a plan in place to where, we couldn't just pull you out overnight because we still had to have that production. And so, you were tasked with recruiting and bringing on and building your own team. And it's amazing looking back. It sounds like it happened so easily, but I mean, it really took a good 12, 24 months.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's amazing. It seemed like it was going slow at the time. Like, Rusty, I've interviewed 10 people. Everybody sucks, or, I mean, they're not what we're looking for. Or, 3 people said they wanted to come on board and I loved them, but now now they won't even answer the phone. I mean, kind of talk about that development just quickly.
I think that was my most challenging thing, still is, with just recruiting and hiring. You think you found this gold person and they're going to be my rock star. And I think I got let down a few times, but that was good. I needed to learn that. I remember running into Rusty's office when my first person ended up leaving. It just wasn't a mutual fit, and I was devastated. And I think I cried. But I just wanted to, I pour into these people, and it's not always going to work out, and it's not always the perfect fit. But I think what we do is a really good job of is bringing on people that just fit culturally, and then we develop them. And so that's what I've loved most about our development process and recruiting, is bringing on people with no experience and teaching them how to sell from A to Z, like like Pruitt Insurance Group does. And that's not how probably most insurance companies, sell and run their business. But that's what I love about our team and the growth we've had over the last few years, is we've developed people into exactly what Pruitt Insurance culture is, and sales wise, and we've just created an awesome team.
Absolutely. And, I think you've taken ownership of that, and you're doing it, but, you're running the business as if it were your own, and you treat it that way, and it's transparent, and the team treats it that way too, because they feel
Right.
that from the culture you've set. So that's awesome. Again, our director of operations, Lee, for Pruitt Pest Control, is not here. I was hoping to get his perspective from a startup company, because he is where, you were 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. Even though he's got a ton of experience for running pest control business, and he's been in the industry, so it's a little bit different perspective. But just kind of give the audience an idea. So what we do, I know for me, having 2 companies, we decided, we're going to take our director of operations for each company, and we're going to have a weekly leadership meeting. Something I've always wanted to do, sort of having a leadership and executive team, and we can have high-level conversations, not about blocking and tackling, but big picture things about what's working, what's not, how can we help each other, how can we leverage Ashley's experience with developing her team for our startup business, and vice versa, because we all bring different skill sets. So one thing that we're focusing on this week is getting ready for next year, right? 2021. Let's get 2020 out of the freaking way.
Let's move on.
But what's interesting about that, and I'll brag on Ashley, because it is Ashley and her team. One of the biggest goals we set for our insurance agency for the year was to finish #1 in the Southeast region, and #1 in the entire company for Allstate agencies countrywide. And Ashley has a very good chance of accomplishing that from a regional level. She's tracking to be with our team probably in the top 2 or 3 in the region, potentially top 2, 3, 5 in the whole country out of 10,000 All-State agencies. How cool is that, by the way?
It's pretty awesome. I'm excited.
During COVID.
Yeah.
So we'll see, we'll see where we finish the year and what that's going to look like. But the fact that, it's been a very trying year and challenging year, the fact that you've adapted has been amazing. And then again, I've started a pest control company in the middle of a pandemic. So who would have thought that timing would have worked out? And we've been very fortunate. I think we're in month 4, month 5 with close to 300 customers, recurring customers on the books, which is a lot more than where I thought we would be. So, so again, this month, December, we talked about planning for next year. Ashley, you and I have talked a lot about that. Yeah. What's the year going to look like? What are our goals? What's our vision? Some of it with the insurance side will be set, maybe what Allstate sets for us as far as what their growth and goals look like, which should be out this week. But outside of that, we have our own goals and our own things that we want to accomplish, and it evolves. Kind of talk just briefly. I know we're limited to the time we have today, but just briefly talk about the goals that we set for this year, and not just specifically insurance related, because we've got a lot of listeners on here and viewers because of our first Zoom today, that are in the pest control industry or other industries. So just talk about how you went about the goal setting for this year and how you've kept the team on track to accomplish those and to do what the other 99% of agencies aren't able to do in a given year.
Yeah. I think where we have always found success and what works for us is breaking it down, not just monthly, not weekly, but daily. And so we, back last December, you and I met and we came up with, hey, this is what we got to have to be best in company. And, we went into January with ready, prepared. We knew what goals we had to have. And I think the reason we're so close to hitting that is because we haven't let up on that. We hadn't let accountability go. Our sales team, we're still getting together daily. We go through what leads do you have. We're watching talk time. We're still coaching. I coach all of our staff at least once a week individually. And, that doesn't include just our weekly huddles and, daily huddles. I'm very hands-on. So I think that helps. We were started off the year great, and then March hits and it's like COVID and everybody's at home. We did that for 2 months. We adapted so well. That's probably the most proud I've been of our team, was dealing with those 2 months at home, because we really didn't skip a beat. Everybody treats this business like their own, and we're over communicators, which I think is key, especially in, this year. We've got one staff that works remotely. I'm home today, but nothing skips a beat when we run into trials. And I think that's why we've had success, is just accountability. And when we run into issues, we coach through it.
That's right. So we adapt.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of issues just like everybody else, even though we're having a record-breaking year for sales and for growth and those things. We've still had a lot. We've had stuff going on personally, different team members. We've had staff turnover. We've had, we bought an office building. We've renovated an office building. We've lived through construction. Your office has changed, probably 6 times this year or 6 times in the last 2 years. And, so you've done a really good job of keeping the culture. And I'll give Maria a shout out here. She came into this culture, and she's been a culture lifter, if you will. I think she's got the great attitude. And Maria, why don't you just tell us real quick? I'll put you on the spot. The culture, to be able to drive the results we've been able to this year for our insurance company, and you've worked on both companies with marketing and helping with this podcast, obviously. Kind of talk about just briefly how the mindset has been this year, and what is probably the most challenging year for most people listening. How have we been able to kind of look through all that?
I think it really all comes down to just everyone being on the same page. I know personally when, COVID hit back in March, I'm living in an apartment and I'm having to set up shop in my kitchen, and I can get down on that, but just making sure that everyone's kind of lifting each other, pulling each other out from the trenches. And like Ashley said, doing those daily check-ins, it really does hold you accountable. And there are hard days, there have been hard days, but there's never no one in your corner just backing you up like, hey, what's going on today, or what do we need to do differently for tomorrow? I just think engaging your team, making sure no one gets left behind, because it can get so easy just to kind of get left. And I don't feel like I had that in previous jobs. It's almost like, let me talk about what's wrong with my day, or let me stay silent. You have to communicate that with someone. Like, no one's a mind reader. And I think I learned that just with COVID, but I definitely needed a team to back me up.
Well, I think we were set up fairly well to work remotely, right? So we had the accountability, we had the check-ins, we had the daily tracking. We send out emails every day for where are we sales-wise, retention-wise, what is our net growth, what are our daily things we need to be doing. So we already had a lot of those systems and processes set in place. And again, we don't have it all figured out. We're learning from others for best practices and things, but I do feel like we had an advantage that when it's almost like everybody just took their laptop home, their phone technology was already, just plug your phone into your Ethernet port or whatever. We were set, we were live. So we were almost kind of prepared for that, unknowingly, I guess.
Yeah.
What we weren't prepared for was the culture change, right? How does the culture from working from home? It was really, the first 2 weeks, we had the best 2 weeks we've ever had from working from home with our insurance company. And then it gets to a point where, maybe the newness wears off. And so we were able to adapt. But, going back to what you said earlier, Ashley, about taking annual goals and breaking those down. Like, I'm a proud papa, by the way, just hearing you say that. I didn't even tell you to say that, but you said take your annual goals and you break it down quarterly, monthly, weekly, and then daily, right? Then you coach around that. And notice Ashley's not talking about managing, being a manager. We're talking about coaching, right? So a good coach is working on your skills and making you better, not just telling you what to do or telling you to come to practice. It's helping them get better. And you spend a lot of time on that. So that's where we're going to talk of the second half of this webinar. We're going to talk about, what are some things we're going to look for next year for goal setting, and how are we going to break those down? And again, this applies to any industry. I mean, not insurance, not pest control. I mean, not just those two companies, but for everything that we're doing. And so, actually, I cannot remember if I made you read this book. I know you've heard me reference it, but there's a book called The 12-Week Year, right? You remember this?
But it's on my to-do list.
To-do list, okay.
We talked about it last week.
Okay.
What is it, the 12-week year?
The 12-week year. So I'm going to see if I can share my screen. So Maria, you may want to help me here.
Okay.
For those listening, this will be available on the I guess on the Facebook page, YouTube, whatever, if you want to watch this. But is that up,
Yep.
Maria?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so this book, 12-Week Year, was introduced to me, 3-4 years ago. Okay, and what it talks about is instead of planning the entire year, right, a 52-week year, it talks about planning your year in 12-week segments, which is essentially a quarter, right? There's 4 quarters in a year. What I've found is a lot of times we'll set annual goals, and we'll set these pie in the sky goals, and then you come out in January, you're fired up, you're going. February, the fizzle comes down a little bit. March, life happens, and you just kind of lose focus on what that annual goal is, especially when you're trying to incentivize your team and your staff around annualized goals. Whereas bonuses, 12 months from now is so far out. I mean, it really is, especially in an environment like we're in right now. We have no idea what the next 12 months holds, right? So that's why I think this book is so timely. It's a game changer for me. There was also another mentor of mine, that's spoken to a similar thing. They call it the quarterly roadmap, where you break down your your goals quarterly. But the premise behind the 12-week year is, one, you got to start off knowing what your 3-year vision is, what your 3-year goals are, and then your year-long goals. So for example, if we want to set a goal to be a $1 million company in 3 years, or $5 million company, maybe that's a 5-year target, 3-year target. And we break it down annually from there, and then quarterly, monthly, to where we need to be, right? And so that's what the 12-week year does. And I found this summary online. Can you see that, Maria?
Yes.
This new window? Okay, so just briefly, this is just a random review I found online. Again, it's talking about the 12-week year, again, a book by Brian Moran. So lesson 1, the 12-week year approach shatters the shackles of yearly goal setting. Again, goals being so far out, they're hard to reach. How can we break them down into easier targets, right? So we break it in a 12-week period. So if we know for the first 12 weeks of 2021, we know what we need to accomplish on those 12 weeks. We focus on those 12 weeks, not the whole year. We just focus on those 12 weeks, and we do the things that we need to do in those 12 weeks. Again, a 3-month time period, essentially, okay? They talk about lesson 2. Rigorous review of how you've done each week is essential to accurately knowing where you are with your goals. So that's breaking down where you are weekly in order to hit your 12-week goal. And you track and measure, and you put some milestones in place, some checks and balances. Lesson number 3, managing your time. How can you fit all this? How can you fit the work of of 12 weeks, a year into 12 weeks, right? So it's being extremely intentional with your time and breaking down every single day, having a game plan. Ashley, we talk about that a lot, right? Having a game plan for your day before your day starts.
Right.
So when do you plan your day? Is it at 8:30 in the morning when the phone's ringing and people are coming in your office, pulling you in different directions? When do you plan your day?
The end of the day before. I have to come in ready because, we all know every single day you may come in at 8 o'clock ready to spend 30 minutes by yourself, but that never happens. So It's got to be at the end of the day.
That's right. So it's your quiet time, end of the day, or first thing the next day. Let's see. So those are the main, sort of high points of the 12-week year is, again, breaking down your goals, on a 12-week, and then monthly, and then weekly basis, right? So I'm going to stop sharing for just a second, and I'm going to see if I can pull up a different screen. Okay, can you see that, Maria?
Yes.
Okay. So for those of you who are listening, what I've got pulled up is basically a weekly planner, okay? I'm not a paper guy. I like to be digital, try to be paperless, all that good stuff. I found, though, a few years ago, I had to go back old school. And actually started with a mentor of mine. I've talked about this in other podcast episodes. People that I've reached out to that have been successful. And I remember this particular guy, was running a company or had run a company with several thousand employees. And at the time, I think I had 7 or 8 employees. And, I'm like, how do you manage that many employees and grow like you have when I'm just struggling managing 5 people or 6 people, right? And he told me, Rusty, you've got to, at the beginning of each week, you need to write down your weekly goals and what are the top 3 things you have to accomplish that week, no matter what's most important to get the ball down the field, right? And so I would identify those things, and then you break it down daily. What do you need to get in? What's the most important thing I need to accomplish today? Today's Monday, December 14th. I wrote this down this morning. What's the most important thing I need to get done today? And then the whirlwind stuff, that's going to happen will take a back seat to that main thing I need to accomplish. Okay. So when we're looking at this planner that I have pulled up on the screen, this is something I got into a habit years ago. So yearly, so writing down your yearly goals, what are you trying to accomplish? Then you break that down quarterly. So let's just say it's a sales goal, right? If you want to grow $1 million in sales this year, we know that's your annual goal. Okay, quarterly, that's $250,000. So we're writing this down. Monthly, right? We're breaking that down again monthly and then weekly. So when I'm doing my weekly planning, I'm breaking down what is my sales goal for this week for the team, right? Now, if I'm someone like Ashley, I then may take that weekly goal and break it down per salesperson
Right.
to break down what is their goal. How are they going to get you there to hit your goal for the agency, right? Then under there, so we're writing those down. That's good form just to get in a habit of writing these things down every single week. So it's top of mind, it's ingrained of what we wanted to do. And guys, there are definitely times when I get away from doing this. We'll do it for 6 months and then summer will happen and we get away from it. But I always think it's a good exercise. Then we, again, top 3 goals we want to do every single day. Let's see. Let me know if you can still see this. I'm scrolling down, Maria. Can you see this
Yeah,
next
we're
page?
good. We're good.
Okay. So again, this is just another example. What I'm looking at is for my week, right? What are the daily tasks I need to do every single day? I'm writing these down. This could be something as simple as reply to an email, submit payroll, order, promotional materials, for an event we're doing, just things you got to get done, right? But if you look at the other column, it says weekly to-dos. So I have at the beginning of the week, I write down everything we've got accomplished for the week, right? And then I identify what are the top 3 things I must do this week. Ashley, I'm going to put you on the spot. What are the top 3 things you need to do this week, no matter what? I mean, we're at the end of this year, right?
Yeah.
What are those 3 things?
I've got to get my line 10 autos. So I know that's probably 1, 2, and 3. And then I've got to watch net growth like a hawk and make sure that our renewal process is complete since we're at the end of the year. So, I mean, those are and I think our team over communicate my top 3s, which is the agency top 3s. And that always trickles down to the team. So, I mean, we're all, we are, all focused on that.
Awesome. So you've got 50 other things to do this week too. Plus you're working from home, probably hadn't planned that, right? I know we're getting out as COVID allows in order to go do visits for some centers of influence this week, right? Dropping off Christmas gifts, stuff like that. So, but does any of that matter if you don't accomplish those top 3 things this week?
No.
That was a trick question. Yeah, you're right.
It doesn't matter to me. No, it does. I mean, what we're doing this week obviously is going to get us ready for January, but we
Absolutely.
need to end, the year strong. So we know what we've got to do.
Hey, Rusty, is this something that you like when you have this tracker? Is it your personal goals and your work goals? Like, do you separate those on their own sheets, or is it something that you like to see all on one sheet?
Great question. I've done this a lot of different ways, and I've used, the 12-week year. They have a template. They have an online template I've used before. A good mentor of mine, Michael Jans, who is in the insurance world, he came up with some of his tools that I've used in the past. There's a company, there's a thing called the Focus Planner. Ashley and I have used that over the years, which is amazing. It breaks down your personal goals along with your business goals, because really it all goes together, right? We have to have that balance of, maybe my top 3 things I need to do this week is work out or go exercise, because you have to find time for all of it to mesh together.
Right.
Ashley and I, like I said, we were using the Focus Planner in a big way. We've kind of niched it into some other tools I think that we're using. But no, that's a great question. I think you have to incorporate that if it's one of your goals. So I'm going to stop sharing this particular screen and
I'll add, I think you've got to get into it's got to become habit, like everything that we're doing. So, yes, we use that Focus Planner I used it for, at least a year, maybe 2 years, to where now if you look at my planner, I have a very small planner, but it's still, those habits still rolled over to it. And that's the way my mind works now. So I think until it's habit, you've got to use something every day.
Completely agree. So one thing, again, talking about goal planning for 2021, again, we've got our, pretty much our goals of where we want to be with both companies. For our pest control company, again, it's a startup, right? So we have our goal. We have our 5-year goals for our startup company, but we know over the next 12 months, here's the most important thing we need to put in place. And so one thing that I've really worked, with Lee on is, let's make sure we stay focused on the top things we need to focus on for the next 12-week year, right? Which is, again, quarter one, January, February, and March. What are the top projects we need to put in place? What are the top things we need to be focused on, right? And same thing for insurance. Ashley, you and I have been meeting in the last 2 weeks. We're changing up some of our marketing and lead generation. So where are we going to get business? It's going to change somewhat from what we've done in the past. And so some of it's, I would say would you agree, and Maria, you're part of this too, would you agree that we have some specific projects that we want to accomplish in the first 12 weeks of the year?
Yeah.
We're not going to go into the details of what those projects are. Some are marketing related. Some in the past have been recruiting related. We came up with a development program for recruiting and marketing to potential people to come work for us, showing a career path. That was something that was on one of our 12-week year planning projects back in 2017, I believe, 2017. So what I want to share now, I'm going to pull up a new screen. Again, I'm going to give Michael Jans credit for this. Again, this was a club, sort of a mastermind group I was a part of, Quantum Club, back in the day. And this is something that I learned from Michael. Is that showing up okay? Should say the short list, my most important projects.
No, it's perfect. I just need to get my eyes checked.
Okay. So for the listeners on here, what we're looking at is a one page, it's got columns and some rows, and it shows basically what are the top projects that we want to focus on for the next 12 weeks or for the first quarter of 2021. Okay. So this is not complete. This is something Ashley and I are working on right now. This is something Lee and I are working on for Pruitt Pest Control, right? And you notice there are 10 different rows with 10 different projects that we could write on here. What I found the first time I did this, probably 7 or 8 years ago, I listed out all 10 projects. The next column is what's the project? What's the why? Why is this project important? What is the best result of what we're trying to accomplish? And then a target date, which is extremely important. When do we want to have this accomplished by, right? So there are so many things I've put on this project list in the past that I thought was most important for that first quarter or whatever that 12-week planning period was. It started off, and within the second week, we ixnayed, right? Because I realized we had too many projects. So I know right now from a marketing standpoint for Pruitt Insurance Group, we're working on, I would say, 2 hardcore projects that we're trying to get in place. And again, using this template, we're going to put what is that project? Why is that important? So we can explain it to the team. If we can accomplish this project, what's the best result we can expect, right? It's pretty simple for us. More leads. We need X amount of sales out of this thing. Then when do we need to have this project in place? So for example, if it's a marketing project where we want to, launch a new social media campaign, well, obviously it's going to take some planning. We can't expect to have it done, in 1 week. So maybe our project completion date is maybe it's February 1st, right? There's another project, maybe we don't need it to be complete until March 1st. So we need to identify those things. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing that for a second. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Do you guys understand that? Basically listing what are the most important projects we need to complete?
I think it's really important to just stay on the same page as your team members. Like I talked about this with you the other day. I feel like I need to get everything done at once. Like you give me a task, 5 tasks. I want to get all those tasks done. I'll think about it at night when I'm laying down right when I wake up. But when that happens, nothing gets done. You're only 10% completing all of these tasks. And I think your quality control too. This really helps with just the quality of work that you're putting out there, not just hitting those deadlines.
Absolutely. And here's where discipline comes in place. If we look at this list, and we may only identify 3 projects for the first, quarter of 2021. Okay, and some may be HR related, some may be marketing, some may be whatever. It doesn't matter. What are the most important projects we need to focus on? I think where the discipline comes in is knowing when we come up with ideas that if it's not on this list, then we don't need to just forget about it, because it could be a phenomenal idea, right? But y'all hear me say this all the time, right? We put it on the shelf. Okay, we're not saying we're not going to do it. We just know that this is not a project that we identified that's going to get us to where we need to be in the first 12 weeks. It may be a project maybe that happens midway through the year, right? So it's important to have that wish list of projects you want to do. In some projects, we may start off and eliminate, and that's
Yeah,
fine.
I was going to say, knowing when to table one of these that, we thought was this great thing and it turns out it's not, knowing when to kind of move on and not waste time.
And, so again, idea wise, marketing wise, that's where my mind tends to go. Oh, here's a great marketing idea. Maria, this, I make your head spin with this stuff, but we can come up with this great marketing idea. But if we're doing 10 marketing ideas mediocre and not 2 extremely strong, then those other 8 ideas actually did more harm than probably help us, because we were not focusing on the ones that we identified. Again, as a group, we all sit down and identify what are the most important. Okay. Lastly on this, kind of looking at some of these little tools. All right, so now that we've identified projects, okay, we want to identify how are we going to implement these projects? Maria, can you see that? It should say 90-day action planner.
Yes.
Okay, again, Quantum Club, giving a shout out here, who provided this template. We've identified the top projects we need to focus on for the first quarter of 2021. Okay. If other good ideas come in play, we're going to table them. We're not going to eliminate them. We're just going to put them on the wish list. Okay, so it takes discipline. All right, the ones that we do identify that we want to do, this is where, how do we turn those into action items? So let me give you an example of this. So we need to break it down 30, 60, 90 days. So again, our 12-week year is going to consist of about 90 days or 3 months, right? So here's an example of a project we identified years ago that we wanted to recruit the best of the best for coming to work for our insurance agency. Okay, so how do we do that? How do we take what some may think is a boring industry, insurance sales, which is not necessarily sexy or glamorous, or something that people say, I want to, when I graduate, I want to grow up to be a insurance agent, right? I know I didn't. Actually, you may not have either. But we said, how can we outline a career path showing where this is a phenomenal opportunity, which I think it is. We came up with the idea of having a development program in place to show someone a career path of where they could go with their insurance career, and start off in sales and customer service, and then go into sales and make a really good living, make good money, but then also go on to be a team leader, right? These are all steps you went through, Ashley, right? Be a team leader, and then ultimately have an opportunity to run an agency location or own their own agency one day. So the development program was something that went on this project list of mine 4 or 5 years ago. And it started off 30, 60, 90-day action items. What am I going to do to put this sort of vision, this project in place? And so in the first 30 days, man, I had to write down 15 different things I had to do, right? So I needed to come up with a flow chart. I need to have an organizational chart. I need to show a career path. I need to outline, what does it look like? What are the different positions called, et cetera. The next 60 days, I had to put it in marketing form, right? If I'm going to show this to someone that I'm recruiting, did I have a way to convey my vision and have it on paper that they could see? Okay, 90 days later, maybe on my action list is have a target date of actually having a rough draft of this online, to where it's a PDF where I could email it to someone where they could see our development program in place. Okay, so we broke down the action steps that took to make this vision come to life. And Ashley, you were a big part of this. I think the very first version I showed you of this development program was like on Microsoft Word. I mean, it was probably so just comical looking back. But I sold you, didn't I? I sold you
Yeah.
on the vision.
Yeah,
Maria,
sure.
when you came through, Maria, how long have you been with us now? A little over a year?
It'll be 2 years in May, but there's no timeline with COVID, so by real fast.
So when you came on board, I feel pretty certain we had this development program in place. We had a brochure. When you
Oh
came
yeah.
through our interview process, just quickly tell us about that experience of were you wowed by the presentation that Ashley had? I mean, how did that influence your decision to come on board with us?
Absolutely. I think like with me, I was in like what my major was something that was very broad. It wasn't a vet. I didn't want to be a vet when I grew up. I didn't want to be a doctor. I just knew I wanted to do something really hands-on. But I never could explain that to someone. So I'm interviewing with Ashley. I'm like, I love people. I love marketing. Basically telling her like all the things that I'm good at. And I'm sure she was pulling out the things I could work on just then and there. But it gave me just a lot of confidence being fresh out of school. A lot of applications that I saw, it's like 3 years plus experience, 5 years plus experience. And I'm like, I'm 22 years old. That's impossible. But just the way that you guys laid it out, for me, I could see a breakdown, and it was, okay, this is our 1 year goal, 2 year goal. How can we get you there? Really just made me feel confident in myself, because that kind of internally helped me think, well, what do I need to work on? How can I get there? And that plan was, it was driven by all of you guys. It wasn't just, let's do 9 to 5, go home. And like Ashley said earlier, it's like rise and grind kind of thing. Like, do you have it in you to get there? And I think that, I mean, you guys blew my socks up. I think I called my mom and I'm like, I love these people. I hope they like me too.
And you know what?
In Rusty's office, it was like, oh my gosh, we have to hire her.
So what's so cool about that is, Allstate didn't provide this program for us. It's a vision that we had as a company. We knew in order to develop people, we had to have a plan to show them, right? We knew that our industry was a hidden gem for finding people and developing people. I mean, Ashley started right out of school too, very similar to where Maria was. And so I needed to be able to paint that vision of where we were taking our company. That was part of our growth, right? Well, it started on this project list, right? So it started on a project that I knew I wanted to accomplish, and it was probably first quarter of 2017. I knew I need to have a development program in place to recruit, train, and to guide people through a career path in order to get people on our team. And that's what we did. And so it started, if you look at our website, PruittInsuranceCareers.com, now there's a whole website, there's a whole recruiting portal for bringing in people, hiring and recruiting. And that started off as a vision in my head, and it had to come on paper, and it had to have 30, 60, 90-day action items on how to do that. And we're doing the same thing for our pest control company. We're going to shadow the same process. Is that the most important thing for us first quarter of 2021 for our new startup company? No. Will it make our list at some point next year? Yes, because we know. But right now, for us, it's sales, it's paying for our overhead, it's getting out there, getting systems and procedures in place. It's doing those things. So that's on our project list for first quarter of 2021 for a startup company, which is where Ashley is probably completely different, in her role of an established company. Would you agree, Ashley?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're focused on, some different things. I did want to add real quick on the, bringing on new people and culture and developing. That first 90 days is so important. We talk about the 30, 60, 90, but we kind of let that spill over into our development program too, because I think your first 90 days when you're bringing on new people, they're either loving it or they are looking for something else. And so how you have to bring on somebody has to be intentional. I mean, we really baby, our new hires, just to make sure that, they're getting what we need them to get out of those first 90 days. A lot of sales jobs, not just sales, any job, you train for a week and then you're thrown into it. Well, if nobody's checking in, most of the time they're probably not happy. So I just think those first 3 months are really important.
Absolutely. No doubt. And that's something that we didn't have the luxury of having in place 5 years ago,
Right.
when you started, Ashley. Right, but we saw the importance of it. And, what's amazing is we came up with a new employee, new hire onboarding checklist, and that was part of our development program. So again, the new employee onboarding project started on this project list 2-3 years ago, and we mapped it out. What does it need to look like? What do we need to do? So now when a new hire starts, day one, we are so dang organized. It's amazing, but that didn't happen overnight, did it?
No.
Now someone shows up and there's a folder and there's a payroll forms, there's a welcome guide, there's check-ins,
You feel like you're moving in, like my family got to have everything set up for me already.
And so again, some people listening right now may identify, hey, we're to the point where we need to really recruit good people and retain them, right? I've hired some really good people over the years that I didn't do a good job retaining them because I didn't have some of these things in place. So that's what's fun, identifying projects. What are the most important things in your business today, identifying those things and putting an action plan in place in order to accomplish it. And again, summarizing, we're not trying to plan the whole year right now for next year. Now we have our goals of where we want to be, right, for 2021, but we're not focusing on that. We're focusing on January, February, and March. What do we need to accomplish the first 3 months of the year that's going to help us reach those annual goals, right? And then we'll sit back down and, toward the end of March, getting ready for Q2, we'll sit down and identify the most important projects then, right? And we may have some of these on, that gets carried forward to second quarter because we didn't accomplish them.
Right.
That's reality, right? So again, summarizing, we're going to identify our top projects or goals that we want to accomplish, not 10 of them, not 20 of them, not maybe our top 3 or 4. Okay. We're going to identify over the next 30, 60, and 90 days, what are the action steps we need to take, the specific action steps that we need to take to accomplish that, right? Some steps you need to take in the first week. Some will have to happen in the next 30, 45 days. Okay. So you identify those timelines. Okay. And then we're going to track and measure this on a weekly basis. Okay. So we're going to put down for this week, first week of January, in order to hit that goal, we're going to know what needs to be accomplished that week. What are the most important things to get accomplished, right? And just reviewing it. If it's on paper, whether you're reviewing it yourself or reviewing it with your team, your leadership team, if you're small, your immediate team, we're going to break those down and then we're going to break it down daily. So any last thoughts or feedback?
Let's get after 2021. We got some planning to do.
Maria, anything you want to add? I mean, I've thrown a lot of projects related to starting this new company when it comes to marketing, social media. What have you learned as far as prioritizing your time and focusing on what's most important? How do you intend to apply? You developed a lot, by the way, in the last year.
Thank you.
In the last 3 months. What are you going to take from this and apply for the first 12 weeks of next year?
Well, it's funny because the other day we were just doing like a morning huddle and you had all these ideas. You're like, let's do this, that, and the other. And I had to like step back and say, no, that's not on the agenda today. I just think like, yeah, like what Ashley said, though, you have to be intentional with your time. And that's something that I'm working on too. I feel like she's a creature of habit. Like lunch is at this time, this is what I'm eating, but like having a better morning routine, I guess, like actually writing these things down, something that I need to work on. You can think about it all day long, but I think that also helps you with just like taking ownership over the project. So I'm about to go print these sheets off and have you guys run through these with me again. But I mean, you do need to collaborate because in my mind, something might be a priority. but to get these things accomplished, it might be, on the back burner. So I think just collaborating is something that I've learned is really important.
Awesome. Ashley, you got to top that. Can you top that? I mean,
I don't know.
hard. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Any last
I think you just have to be organized and flexible, because not, of course, you could put your top 4 things and life happens, or you lose a staff or something. We're in a season where, I'm really helping our customer service team. Did I expect that? No, but it's great. We're rolling with it. So I think it's just having a plan. Your whole team knows where the goals are and what we have to hit. And if you're all pulling in that, if you're all pulling in that direction, then good things will happen.
Awesome. Thank you both. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for co-hosting this with me today, Maria. Thanks for lining up this technology. We'll see when it makes YouTube format and the podcast format if everything's smooth. But thank you guys, and for all the listeners out there, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.